again on my channel. So today I'll be walking you guys through on how you can cut 8 pieces skirt. Okay, so that is tutorial for today, how to cut an 8 pieces skirt or 8 panel skirt. All right, so I'll be using this pattern paper for this tutorial, after which we'll go ahead and transfer it on our fabric. All right, so guys, if this is your first time of coming into my channel, you can please kindly subscribe and hit the notification bell so that whenever I upload a new video, you will get notified. And all thanks to my subscribers, thank you guys so much for the amazing work you guys have been doing. Thank you guys so much. It's really encouraging. All right, so now without wasting much of our time, so let's get to business. So the measurement for today, I have the waist measurement. We'll be working on with our waist measurement, the hip measurement, the knee length, and the full skirt length. Okay, so that's the total for today. All right, that's the measurement we'll be working on. Okay, so now the first thing I will do right now, as you can see here, the first thing to do whenever you want to cut your panel or 8 pieces skirt is to determine the amount of fabric you'll be working on, how many years of materials you have or you want to work on. Okay, so in this case, the owner doesn't want a full skirt. She just wants something moderate. All right, so I'll be working with 2 years of fabric, all right, to cut the skirt part. So I have to manage the 2 years. Okay, so how do you do that? So now, when you first of all determine the amount of fabric you're working on, so that means 36 inches make up 1 yard. All right, so 36 times by 2. So if you times 32 by 2, that is for the 2 year, it will give you 72 inches, right, to give us 72. So now, because you're working on the 8 pieces skirt, you have to divide that 72 by 8. Okay, so when you divide 72 by 8, it will give you 9. Okay, it means each panel will have 9 inches. All right, that is, each panel of the skirt will be having 9 inches. All right, so that is how to determine or how to share your panels by the amount of fabric you have. So in other words, it's not good like maybe somebody will give you 4 years to cut 8 pieces or 6 pieces skirt. Maybe you end up cutting the skirt so fuller, you will be shortage of material to cut the top. All right, so now this is the method I normally use. I Depending on the amount of fabric the person is working on, if the person wants to use, maybe I feel like I want to use 3 years to cut only the skirt, the down part, so I have to divide, that is 36 times by 3. All right, you divide by the panel you are working on, whether you are working on 6 or 8 pieces. That will determine the damper, the how the fullness of the down panel of the skirt will be. All right, so now we have gotten 9 inches. Okay, so that means we'll be working with 9 inches for the down part, for the full circumference, the fullness of the skirt. All right, so now the next thing we'll do right now, so this pattern paper, now you can see it's not all that long, so I'll be using here will serve as my waist. So this part now I'll use it as my waistline. All right, so now the next thing I'll do right now, I'll go ahead and mark out my skirt length first. I'll input my horizontal measurement. All right, so here now will serve as my waistline. So the next thing, I'll go ahead and mark out my hip line. So I'll be using 9 inches for the hip line. So here I'll mark my hip line. This is 9 inches. Okay, so 9 inches. Then the next thing is the knee length. So I have the knee length of 16 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark 16 inches for the knee length. Okay, so the next thing is the skirt length, and the skirt length I'm working on, I have the skirt length of 37 inches. Okay, so here, but first of all, this particular skirt, I'll be using rope. You know, some people they want it rope or elastic or zip. I'll be using rope and zip at the same time. Okay, rope and zip at the same time. So now, because because of this, Okay, the next thing you do, you first of all mark out your the rope you'll be working on. Okay, so that means I want to use 1.5 inch or 2 inches for the rope. Okay, so now I'll be using, okay, let me mark out 2 inches for the rope. So here is my 2 inches for the rope. Okay, sorry guys, because I've marked this already. Okay, so let me not mark it. When I'm adding to my fabric, I will mark out my rope because I've already marked out. Let me see. So guys, so I will leave the rope. When I'm transferring on my fabric, I'll go ahead and extend 2 inches for my rope because I've already marked out this. I don't want to mess up this pattern paper. Okay, so now, because if I'll mark out to it, it means I have to extend the hip line and the knee length, all right, which will mess up the whole paper. So now I will bear it in mind that, so if you want to add your rope here, I'll be adding, when I'm cutting on fabric, I'll be adding 2 inches for the rope. So okay, and this skirt, so after marking out this the hip line and the knee line, so the next thing I'll do is to mark out my skirt length, which is 37 inches. So okay guys, I've marked out my 37 inches. I hope you guys can see what I'm doing. So this is my skirt length. So this remaining part here, this skirt, I'll be folding it. I'll be turning off the down part. I'll use lining to turn the down part like this. Okay, so that is why. But if you're not going to be turning, you can go ahead and add your folding allowance. Okay, so but here I'll use the remaining like this. This is how it's going to be. Okay, so here my lining will start somewhere here. Okay, so that is how I want this to be. So now I will just use this whole place now. Okay, so having gotten my skirt length, the next thing I will do right now is to divide my waist measurement by 8. Remember, we are working on 8 pieces. Okay, so if you are working with on 12 pieces skirt or 6 pieces skirt, you can use the same method. The only difference is you divide by the amount of panels you are working on. Okay, so I'm working with the 8 panels here, or 8 pieces, so I will divide my waist measurement by 8 for us to get the center part. We are trying to get the center part. Okay, so now my waist measurement, I have the waist measurement of that is 38 inches. So 38 divided by 8, that will give us 4.7, right? Yes, that will give us 4.7. So here, so that 4.75, you divide it by 2 because this paper will be on fold. When we are cutting on our fabric, it will be on fold. Okay, so don't forget. So I have to divide this by 2. I want to make sure you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay guys, so now you divide your waist measurement by 8. So my waist is 38. So 38 divided by 8 with 8, I will have 4.75. So that 4.75, because we are cutting on fold, this paper is on fold. So when we are cutting, we cut on fold. Because it's on fold, I will divide 4.75 by 2. So which will give me 4.75, which will give me 2.3. Okay, see 2.3, it will give me 2.3. So that 2.3, I'll go ahead and add half inch for sewing allowance. So 2.3 plus half, that will give us 2.8. Okay, you can approximate it to 3 inches if you want. So let me say this is 2.8. Let me use for 8 because my marker is bold. So you mark from your waist 2.8. From the waist, you mark 2.8 down to your knee, down to the knee length. Okay, and you connect the lines. So you connect it, okay? So having done this now, so we have gotten the center front. Remember, like I said, we'll be working with the down part. The down part we're working on is 9 inches, okay? Because we have divided the number of fabric we have, the amount of fabric we'll be working on. So the fullness is 9 inches. So because we are cutting on fold, you divide that 9 inch by 2. So 9 on fold will have 4.5. It will give us 4.5. So on this down part, you're going to be marking 4.5. All right. So here is my 4.5. So after marking it the 4.5, you connect it, you connect it with a straight line. So this is what we have here. As you can see that this skirt is not fuller because we don't want to use much fabric. We're already working on with 2 years of fabric. You can see the down part, it won't be that full. But if like we are working with like maybe 3 years or 4 years, you can see that the fullness, it will be full. I can extend like this to make it more fuller. But this is the owner's choice. She doesn't want it to be, she just wants moderate. Okay, so now this is what we have. We have connected it. So this is the knee line. Remember, here is the knee line, and this is our hip. Here we don't really need the hip, but you have to make emphasis on it. So this is our waist, the knee length, hip line, and the knee length. Okay, so now the next thing we'll do right now is to go ahead and cut it out. All right, so you can see, so when you cut it, you'll be able to cut out the side panels. So you can see the skirt is not that full. Assuming we are working, maybe we want to use 8 inches for here, or you want to use 9. Maybe we are working on um maybe we are using 3 years of fabric. Let's assume here we are using 8 inches on fold. You can see, so when you mark out your 8 or 9 or 10, let's assuming 10 inch, and you connect, you can see that the full, it will be more fuller like this. All right, so this is what we have here. So you can imagine, you can see that it will be more fuller. All right, so but because we'll be working only with 2 years of fabric, so that is why you are seeing it this way. So don't get confused. The fullness depend on the amount of fabric you'll be working on. All right, so now the next thing I'll do, I'll go ahead and cut it out. Okay guys, so you can see now I'm done cutting it out. I've cut out the front panel. So this is it. Remember, when we are cutting on fabric, this will cut, this is 8 panel. So this one will be 2 in front, then the side, 2 side, making 4. The same with the back. But the back one, there will be, we'll add allowance for zipper if you are using zipper. Okay, so now let's first of all cut out the side panels first, after which we go ahead and cut the center back, because I said I'll be using zipper and to hook at the center. All right, so now in case if you don't want to use zipper, you just cut this one, the front panel, you just cut it by 4. You cut 4 pieces of it, because the side panels will be 4, while you cut this one to 4, making 8. All right, so now the next thing I'll do, remember we use the fullest part of this skirt, the down part is 9 inches. All right, so for the front I used 4.5 on fold. So the next thing I'll do right now, I'll go ahead and mark out my 4.5. I'll make a line. So I'll make this line, it will be as my starting line for the side panel. So here I I'll go ahead and connect it. Remember the down part on fold we used um 4.5 for the fullest part, so that is what I'm drafting. That's the line I'm marking out now. Okay, so after marking it out like this, the next thing I will do is to impute my, remember we are, so now it means I've divided the 9 inch by 2. All right, so now the next thing I will do right now from this waistline, so now the waistline, because we want to get the hip part, we'll divide the waistline by 8. So the waist divided by 8, that will give us 4.7. So this is the 4.7. You add this 4.7 plus extra 2.5 inch allowance, or you can add 2 inches, but I'll be using 2.5. So here, sorry, I didn't mark out my hip, and so my hip line, so this is the hip line, 9 inches, and the knee length, remember we use 16 for the hip length, so this is it. And the skirt length, okay guys, so now after marking this out, so you go ahead and mark out your hip divided by 8, waist divided by 8, sorry, 4.7. You add your allowance. We are trying to cut out the side part, the hip, the side. So now the hip measurement, we have hip of 41 inches, so 41 of hip measure divided by 8, that will give us 5.2, 5.125 or so. So 5.1, we mark it here, plus 2.5 inches of allowance. So this is it. So now we have gotten this our waist and the hip line. So this is what I have here. So this is the sewing allowance. So now on this part now, you're going to come down, you are going to subtract whatever you have here. You subtract 1 inches, so I have 8 inches total. I'll go ahead and mark it 7. So you connect. Okay, so this is it. So after connecting this way, the next thing now is to connect it our the down part. All right, so the down part of this one, remember, is the down part. We are going to connect it to the down part. So guys, we are going to connect it to the down part. All right, so from here, from this knee line, from this knee length, so you are going to connect it from here down to the hemline. Okay, like this. So you connect this way. So you connect it. You can see this is what I have here. So here, from this knee line also, you are going to be, remember we are working, the fullest part we are working on is 9 inches. Okay, because we are using only 2 yards of fabric, so this is how it will be. So let me use this mark. You can see that the shape is not nice. This is what you get whenever you you cut a panel skirt with a small amount of fabric. You can see the down part is not other full, doesn't give that volume, that fullness. So let me use pen. It's looking funny. Okay, so now this is how it will be, because we are trying to use only 2 yards of fabric. You can see how funny it's looking like. But if like we are using more amount of fabric, if I go ahead and open up this side, you will see that I will still be shortage of maybe I've budget to use only 2 yards. You can see the, that means I have to use more than 2 yards. When I'm cutting, find out that you've used more than 2 yards. So this is as a result of that. So now I'll go ahead and add extra allowance for it to look, for the sake of this tutorial, so it won't be looking funny. People will be wondering, why is this thing like this? Is this how to cut a panel skirt? It's not looking nice at all. So for the sake of this tutorial, I'll go ahead and make and connect it this way for you to see how it looks like. All right. Okay, so you can see the difference now. You can see the shape is out. All right. So for the sake of this tutorial, you can see now our panel skirt. So this is the hip part. So when we are cutting, we'll have to cut this. We'll cut from here. We'll be cutting it in four pieces. Okay, we'll cut on four. We'll cut it four. While we'll cut this front one, we'll cut it by four as well. We'll also cut four pieces of this as well. So this is what we'll have. You can see what we'll have here. All right. So this is it. Please, because this person is small, and also the fabric we're working on, only 2 years of fabric. Assuming we are working on with 3 years, you can see that the volume will be much. It will be here, the down part will be very, very nice. It will come out with more fullness. But she doesn't want full, she just wants me to use the 2 years to cut it out. So now that is what I'm working on. Okay, so this is what we have. So I want to cross check our measurements. So if you find this confusing after cutting the fold, you can just fold your fabric and place this one, then mark out your measurement, then hip and waist divided by 8, 4.7. Then you just mark it 4.7 here, plus your allowance. Then the hip as well, 5 hip 41 divided by 8, that will give us 5.1. Then you mark it and also add your allowance. So you can always place this as a guide after cutting. Then after cutting this one, if you are cutting directly on your fabric, you can just fold, use the front, paste it and use it to mark it out. So after you deduct whatever you have here, you reduce it by 1 inch here, then you extend. It's very, very simple. Okay, so now this is it. So this is the actual look if you are trying to manage this fabric. So this line, I use a pen to mark it. So this is the actual measurement, because we are working with 9 inches. Okay, because it's 2 years of fabric, this is the actual measurement, but I extended it for us to see the shape. If your fabric is more, you can even extend more depending on the fabric you are working on. Okay, depending on how many inches you want to use for the down part. You can see the more you open the down, the fuller the down part will be. So now, so I will go ahead and cut this one out now. Okay, I'll be cutting this out, after which we go ahead and cut for the zip line. The only thing about the zip line, because it's 8 pieces, so you just add your 1 inch of allowance, okay, or half inches of allowance. It's as simple as that. All right, so let me go ahead and cut it out. Okay guys, so now like I said, if you want to cut the back, because you want to add zipper to it, so you place the front. So you can see this is the front. You just place the front and add your zipper allowance. Okay, so now I'll be adding 1 inch for the zipper allowance here. We can add half. So from here down, I'll just add 1 inch of zipper. If it's 6 pieces, there is a way we cut the zipper allowance. If you want it to have tail, that means there will be more fabric here, so that when you come to this side, you extend for your tail. So by here, because like you can see, we just have a limited fabric, so we don't have that much fabric to work on. So but we maybe later on I'll make a tutorial on how to cut 6 pieces skirt. Okay, It's the same method. The only difference here now is the fabric is small. We have a limited fabric. The fabric is not that much. We are only using 2 yards, so we can imagine you don't expect it to be that full. So that is just the difference. If you are working with 3 yards, cutting 8 pieces with 3 yards of fabric, or and you can see the effect will be that much. All right. So now, so after this, I'll just mark out my zipper allowance. Okay, that is just the difference between the front and the back. You can decide to mark it straight. All right, you just mark it straight. You are not adding any tail or any go go get at the back. So just mark it straight. The only difference is this zipper allowance for the back. If not, if like you are using rope, you don't want to add zipper, maybe only rope, no zipper. Okay, you just cut this exactly. You just duplicate it 4. This one will be 4. Why this one will be 4? Okay, so why this the hip side will be 4 as well, making 8. All right, so that when you are sewing, this one too will be in front. One of this will be by one side, and the other of this will be at the other side for the front piece. Then you do the same thing at the back piece, but this one, because it's having zipper, because we will have adding zipper to it, so here we have added extra allowance to make room for the zip. Okay, so to make room for the zip, so this one will be for the back, so it will be zipper. Okay, it will go to the back, while this one will be the front. This is for the front panel. Okay, so that is it for this tutorial. Alright, so guys, you can see now I'm done cutting the back as well. So I've cut it out. So this is the final look. So when we are cutting on fabric, we are going to cut this 4. We cut this 4. Then this is the front. We'll cut it. This one 2. We'll cut this one 2. Okay, for the front panel. While we'll cut the back 2 as well. Assuming you're not going to be using a zipper, you just cut the front into 4 pieces, while you cut this one to 4. So this is it. When we are sewing, this is how it's going to be like. All right, so you sew it this way. Then one of this will, this one, another one of this for these two will be here. Okay, while the other one will also be here. The same thing at the back. So this is for the zipper. Okay, I'll be adding zipper and rope at the same time. So that is why I'll be adding zipper and rope at the same time. Okay, so this is how it's going to look like after sewing it. All right, so this is it. Don't mind the down part. The down part depends on the material you have. Okay, I keep emphasizing on that. Depending on how wide you want it, you can extend, use any wideness you want. All right, so guys, we have come to the end of this tutorial. All right, so watch my next video, because I'll be using this exact pattern to cut a zigzag skirt or a chevron skirt. Okay, how you use your stripe materials to arrange it to form a zigzag line. So I'll use this pattern for that tutorial. So if this is your first time, guys, so that is why you need to subscribe and hit the notification bell, so whenever I upload a new video, you'll get notified. All right, so see you in my next video. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.